This is Lofi Girl. You know that already because there's a certain vibe and aesthetic that comes along with that famous image. The reason you've come to this video is you're probably intrigued in how you get recognized by Lofi Girl and later release your music with them. There are a few hoops to jump through, but I want to try and help you navigate that world in this video. What is up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of Inspired By. My name's Will and I make an assortment of music under the moniker Hush Child. Like all my other videos, we are going to come to a tutorial section where I show you how to craft a track in the style of a Lofi Girl release. And we're going to do so with the help of a couple of my friends as well. These guys already have a plethora of successful releases with Lofi Girl, and they're going to be helping me out later on in the video. But before we get your music streamed to over 9 million people, we have to put you under the microscope. I want you to think about your current audience following, because Lofi Girl represents sleepy, study-based music to the masses. I'll say that again. Sleepy, study-based music to the masses. Lofi Girl is one of the biggest lo-fi collectives and lo-fi record labels you'll find. With its recognizable artwork style and animated character, you don't even have to hear the name to know what the music is going to sound like. But can the same be said for your artist moniker? Lofi Girl is unlikely to take a risk on someone that isn't already making waves in lo-fi music. So the first place that you should start is in creating an online presence. Are you already putting out music? And are you easy to find on social media? You have to think about it like a relationship. What's in it for the record label? If you have no online presence, you're unlikely to promote your new music, and you're unlikely to build a bigger following. This makes your relationship with LG extremely one-sided. They're not interested in simply benefiting you and growing your audience. They need to continue to grow themselves. It's just some food for thought there. So if you already have an online presence and you're already creating lo-fi, then how can we build your audience so you later get recognized by Lofi Girl? Let's take a look. So this is Submit Hub. There are many sites like it, but this is the one I use, so I'll use this for an example. It's a place where you can upload a track, give it a basic genre and bio, so a little bit about the track. And then what you can do is take a look at a list of curators. Curators can be playlisters, people that own a blog or a website or even a YouTube channel. And you're able to look at the different types of curators and whether they match the genre that you put in, what quality their playlists are, and how much influence they have as well. I tend to set aside 10 to 20 pounds for the day that my song is released, and I make sure to let all my favorite curators know that that song is out. The huge benefit is when you look at your submissions, you'll see who's added your track to their playlist, but you'll also be able to look at feedback and why that track was declined, allowing you to start to build a track around your chosen audience. It's an extremely easy way to gain feedback, get playlisted, but most of all, grow your audience. And something that you have to bear in mind, it's extremely important that you put your audience first and your potential future audience too. And I find the best way to do that is to make sure that your music is available everywhere. And that's why I use DistroKid. And that's not just a plug. I have new music coming out this Friday, which I prepped and readied using DistroKid. They generated me the promo link in the description, which you guys can use to pre-save that music. And in return for helping me out, I want to help you guys out. If you use the other DistroKid link in the description, you'll get 7% off your first year. So by now you should have an online presence, you should be growing an audience, and you're making it easier for that audience and future audience by making sure that your music is on all the streaming platforms. So now it's really just designing your tracks with Lofi Girl in mind. One of the first things that I want to do is probably build just some chords, just a chord pattern. What kind of sound do I want? Am I stuck already? Shall I phone a friend? Let's do this. Let's give Towers a call. Hey buddy.
Hey Will.
I was wondering what a Lofi Girl track sounded like to you and how you would go about creating chords for that material?
Generally, I think a Lofi Girl track, one of the important elements is soothing chords. Having some like warm, soothing chords to give you that nice, relaxing, maybe even ambient feeling is really important. Another element would be organic drums and textures, using tree sounds and environmental sounds, rain, anything like that can make a good Lo-Fi Girl track.
Dude, that's so helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, so having spoke to Towers, let's get this out of the way and stay professional. He mentioned using warm chords. This can both mean in chord progression and the types of chords you play. A warmer sound tends to be a darker tone, so it brings out more of a warm texture. So to give example to that, here's a really high, bright, almost cold tone, and a warmer tone. We're going to choose a minor chord progression, but something that has hope, something that gives us kind of like beach vibes, but we're also going to choose an instrument that is a little bit darker as well. So not like a harpsichord or anything too bright. So I've gone for this E-piano MK1 Mellow, and I've just changed some of the parameters here in the tone. It was a little bit bright coming in. I took that tone down, made it a little bit quieter, and I reduced some of the stiffness as well. See how it gets darker down here? So with this track, I've just composed in 120 BPM, or if you want to do it in half time, 60 BPM. It's going to be a very slow track. 16 bars of chords. So something that is easily loopable, and I'm just making sure that I make minor changes as we go into the second loop. So we always start on the same position, but where we end up is slightly different. Just making sure that it doesn't get too repetitive as we continue to hear those chords. You'll notice underneath I've added a little bit of a pad layer with some of the chords looking a little bit different to their counterpart above. And I've just rounded out the EQ. Again, we've got to keep everything warm, so I'm not introducing any bright characteristics just yet. So that's just going to sit under our chords. Just adds a little bit of saturation and just makes our chords sound a little bit bigger than they are. So I was listening to a variety of Lo-Fi Girl playlists there because you always want to go back to that source material. And there is a lot of guitar there, and I didn't want to be deterred. I'm not a guitarist. I don't have very good guitar skills, but I do have a Splice account. I also know that the chord progression I played in is in D minor. So what I did was go into Splice and just have a look for some kind of guitar loop. And I found this cool harmonic layer, and I've just faded it out a little bit. Rolled off some of the lower tones because I don't want them to be construed with my chords, and I've also added a lot of reverb as well. Little bit of warping so it sits a little bit better with the rhythm of the chords that I have. And then underneath, what I wanted to add was another guitar layer or a couple of guitar layers. But I did find this guitar stem, and this is what it sounded like with no effects on it. So I enjoyed that. It would be very easy to put that over the top of the chords that I had. So I EQ'd out loads of those rumbly low frequencies to about 5,500 Hertz. And I might even add a delay to this. And I really stretched out these two notes, which left it sounding like this. And I figured that played with my harmonic layer quite well. And my chords here. I took that same guitar, reversed it, and just used it sporadically throughout different bars, and we have basically like 4 different patterns. So on its own, they sound like this. Each of them are pitched down according to the chords that I'm playing. And just stretched a little bit differently. I'm always going back to those warm chords. Just making sure that these guitar layers are adding to the track or adding to the chords without being too oppressive to what's going on. I'm really liking how this is sounding. I'm a little bit worried about drums. Let's call on my friend again. What's up, buddy? I'm stuck again. Drums. What are you doing for drums?
So when recording drums, I actually do something quite unique, I think, that I've told a lot of other producers about. I usually try and isolate different sounds from like rock soundscapes or like nature samples, so like trees brushing in the wind. I'll take just like one little transient from those samples and turn them into like a perk or something interesting, or even a snare, sometimes even a kick.
Okay, dude, that's so helpful. I'm gonna work on that right now. You're a superstar. I'll catch you soon. I've got just the thing for this. I've shown you guys this before. Let's look at some transients. Okay, so originally I was gonna do this in MIDI, and I ended up doing it as an audio stem. You'll see why. I went with the Esther kick, and you can see that it's all joined together. So I just highlighted all my kicks and pressed Command D. Got some quieter kicks before any downbeats there. And the reason I joined it all together was so that I could turn warp on, beats, preserve the transients with the forward mode, and then bring this envelope down to 60. That stops them being so bass heavy. So without that, you can hear kind of the overtones, the room sound. If I bring that right down, it's only focusing on that top transient here. It just allows a little bit of character to come through the kick drum there. And then I start to really take into consideration the information that Towers gave me here. So the first thing that I did was get this ESM spray texture that sounds like this. And then I warped it, set it to beats as we've seen before. Forward transient, brought that right down to 0. Check this out. So now we're only getting the largest, highest transients. And then I chose one that I liked, and I think it was this one that stood out to me. So I just chopped that and then added the EQ8 and Transient Master. Transient Master just takes away some of the harshness that some transients add. And then I believe I pitched it down a little bit as well. So again, it wasn't too harsh. If something's really bright, hurting your ears, you can pitch it down to make it a little bit more pleasant to the ears. I doubled that up by doing the same thing with another stem. And that happens every other downbeat. So we double up on an accent there. And that's why I added this Esther clap, kept it really quiet in the mix. And again, just to double up on that sound, notice how I'm separating the sounds ever so slightly as well, so they fall at different peaks, so you get kind of a natural roll to the notes. And then did the same with this wood click, again, originally part of a much larger stem. Set it to beats, forward mode. Decrease that envelope. So you're getting two textures there with the kick drum. I've just finalized that, but like I said, putting it into a group and then just rounding off some of the frequencies that I didn't want to be heard. I don't want it to be too bright. It's not a bad thing, but just again, in keeping with the Lofi Girl community, I'm rounding off some of those harsher transients. And then finally, looking at some of Towers' tracks, he uses things like waves, rain samples. So I wanted to add a bit of movement. I'm not totally happy with the waves just yet, so we'll come back to them. So instead of adding a hi-hat to this beat, which would be really distracting, I took this shaker percussion. This first line of percussion is really heavily EQ'd. It's been stretched out so it's double the length and pitched down 12 semitones. This second perk layer has been EQ'd pretty similar, but panned in the opposite direction and also pitched down 12 semitones. Just adds a little bit of an extra rhythm there. And with the same method of using the transient on beats mode, I've created these different rhythmic sections, and you can see that the automation is moving with the EQ there. And that drifts on throughout the track. Then, like I said, we've got this waves layer, which I tried to create some movement in, tried to make it a little bit more like a shaker. So we're using this LFO device to move the EQ back and forth. We've got a little bit of sidechain there. But what I think we'll do is add a phaser, and that'll just keep it moving a little bit more, because this is too rhythmical, right? It just goes back and forth and you can kind of sense the loop there. Cool, we're gonna keep it on 2 bars actually with a smaller amount. And then that way it moves a lot slower, kind of hides the repetitiveness of that layer. I think we can keep that much quieter in the mix too. Cool, I'm happy with how the drums sound. Let's recap and listen to everything together. Okay, this is sounding good. Let's speak to Wiss real quick. This guy is like the holy grail of information. Dude, I've got so many questions, but I'll keep it short because I really appreciate your time. You have so many plays on your Spotify. How do you keep people coming back to your music and generate an interest?
Hey, salut Will. Ouais, bah, quand je compose pour Lofi Girl, en général, j'essaie en fait de respecter leur cahier des charges. Donc, c'est-à-dire faire une musique qui va aider l'auditeur à se concentrer ou au moins qui va pas le déranger. Pour ça, moi, j'essaie au maximum de pas surprendre l'auditeur en fait. Donc, c'est-à-dire toujours annoncer dans mes morceaux l'arrivée d'une nouvelle partie ou d'un nouvel instrument. Et surtout, j'essaie aussi de mettre l'accent sur le tout premier beat drop. Donc, c'est-à-dire le moment où les drums rentrent dans un morceau pour la première fois. Parce que je trouve que c'est le moment le plus satisfaisant en fait dans un morceau et c'est ce qui peut donner envie de le réécouter peut-être. Sinon, ce qui fait que les gens aiment ce que je fais, déjà si c'est bien le cas, c'est peut-être que j'essaie de mettre l'accent sur les mélodies, donc de composer au mieux en tout cas de belles mélodies qui se retiennent et qui restent en tête. Et voilà. Peut-être qu'il y a d'autres raisons après, mais je les connais pas en tout cas.
So that was my buddy Wiss, truly a legend. You guys probably know him from the track Snowman, which has like 67 million streams, something like that. He's given me some food for thought. Let's try and create some melodies. So I have this lo-fi piano that I had in Serum. It kind of sounds like this. I've manipulated it a little bit. But I've added oscillator A, which kind of moves through this waveform when I hold a note. You can see that it kind of has this reverse sound. So what I wanted was maybe something like something like that. I'm not totally sure yet. Trying to bear in mind what Wiss said about slowly introducing new layers, not taking the audience by surprise, but it also has to be sleepy music. So I kind of found these basic bells. And I'm trying to think of like nursery rhymes that would do this kind of trill. Keep it very nice. I've increased the brightness there, and this is going to be probably the first bright thing in my mix if you think about everything else that I've EQ'd. Keeping the reverb relatively high with some auto pan there. Let's play something in that reminds us of that nursery rhyme pattern. What's great for something that loops well is something that dips down, up, and then back to its starting position. I've kept it super low in the mix and really unquantized as well. It's got a nice humanistic feel and it's soothing as well. It's all going to be about mix from here. What do I want to be low in the mix and what do I want to be high? Maybe something like that. I think at this point you've probably got the main components of how you want to go about getting noticed by Lofi Girl, or maybe some other collectives for that matter. I'm going to take a little bit of time to arrange this composition, but why don't you come back at the end and you'll hear this in its entirety. As always, if you're a member of the Patreon, then I'll leave the audio stems to this project over there, which is linked in the description. So there we have it, guys. If you made it to this point in the video, do let me know. And whilst you're down in the comments section, give me your thoughts on lo-fi as a whole, and if you'll be creating new tracks with Lofi Girl in mind. If not, why? I'd absolutely love to know. As always, guys, if this video was helpful, give it a like, subscribe, it greatly helps out the channel. And as always, I thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.